Hello and welcome once again to another episode of From the Heart. This show, as always, is brought to you by the West Virginia Library Commission and by the American Heart Association. I'm your host, Kevin Pauley, Marketing and Communications Director for the American Heart Association. Well, as hard as it is to believe, we now sit at the end of the year 2024. And as Billy Squire sang, in Christmas is the time to say I love you. It's the time to think about the year that's just passed and have our wishes for the year still to come. With that in mind, my guest today, no stranger to the show, but the perfect guest to talk about a year in review, is none other than the Executive Director of the American Heart Association, Michelle Anderson. Michelle, welcome back to the show. So glad to have you back again.
Thank you so much for having me.
I know it's been a busy year. 2024, a landmark year for your team here in West Virginia and across the part of Virginia that you cover, and of course, the centennial year for the American Heart Association. Now, when you took over this position, I don't think any of us thought about like the idea that we would be here for a centennial celebration, and yet here we are. So what was it like for you as our director here in West Virginia getting into the centennial year for this organization?
Well, it was so amazing to be leading the organization in West Virginia and Southwest Virginia to lead into the 100th year, our centennial. What a celebration. You know, if you think back of when the American Heart Association started in 1924 and all of the accomplishments that we've made, being able to be part of it during this time to celebrate that all is just so incredible.
It really is one of those things where, you know, when I came on board, it'll be 20 years in June,
Wow.
which is insane. So 2005. And so not even anywhere near thinking about, you know, a centennial. And all of a sudden, like, here I am working for this organization and we're celebrating 100 years. It just is one of those amazing, crazy things, and here we are. Now, in your position, of course, like, you know, you oversee everything, obviously. As the executive director, you know, you're overseeing all the various events that we have across the entire state, as well as into, again, Southwest Virginia. You're working with our community impact team. You're working with me in communications. You're working with advocacy. So you really kind of do see all things from the mountaintop. What was this year like? I mean, when you look at the general things that you normally have to do in a regular year, let alone a centennial, how did this year stack up? Did it deliver on what you were hoping to see? Did it meet your over expectations? Like, how did the year go for you?
It was amazing. You know, honestly, the excitement around the centennial, not just with our team,
Sure,
internally at the organization, but with our survivors and all of our supporters, our sponsors. It was just really cool to, you know, have them alongside of us and leading into the next 100 years. We, you know, broke records with
Yes.
our events. We had record-breaking attendance. We had record-breaking fundraising. It was just really, really cool to see the energy that we had. And we were able to do some fun things at our events, like have birthday cakes or confetti
Yes.
poppers, just really celebrating, you know, the centennial year.
I think you're right. It was really, really great to see how the community responded as well. That, you know, it wasn't just us internally working for the Heart Association. It was the many people that we work with who are impacted by that work. Our sponsors, our volunteers, our board members, and especially our survivors, who they just really, everyone that I talked to this year, they were so excited to be a part of this thing, like this, not only the mission that we do, but to be a part of that centennial year was such a special thing. Now, obviously, you know, we go back to the beginning of the year. We were coming into January and February, and of course, that is an incredibly busy time, as, you know, February is American Heart Month, National Wear Red Day. What were some of the exciting things that you saw, or the successes that you saw going into National Wear Red Day, our heart balls, those kinds of things?
Well, you know, we talk and think back of when the organization started and think of all of the strides that we've made
Yes.
over the past 100 years. You know, CPR, different techniques in surgery, different
Stents, yeah.
medications to keep people alive. You know, and if you think about the strides that we made the past 100 years, being part of the organization to celebrate that big milestone and then look forward to
Yes.
100 years from now and where we will be. You know, heart disease is still the #1 killer of Americans,
It is
and
indeed.
we are trying to eradicate that. And who knows, in 100 years, with the advances in technology, we might be able to do that. So just really being able to articulate that to our, like we said, our sponsors, our survivors at our events, and seeing people live longer and be healthier because of that work that we've done
Yes.
the past 100 years has just been really, really cool to experience. As you know, we touched on a little bit, is our events were so much fun.
Really
Being
and
able
truly,
to,
yes.
you know, they're always a celebration of the good work that we do and a celebration of, you know, our survivors, or, you know, thinking of the people that we've lost. But this year it was just a little extra special, and just we were able to incorporate some fun things into the events, and really just go extra big this year for 100 years.
Yeah, I will say, you know, because I basically run all of our social media, especially for National Wear Red Day, and the excitement for Wear Red Day this year, because not only was it 100 years for us, but it was 20 years for the Go Red campaign, which is, again, a massive milestone. Like, that's just gigantic. And that's a campaign that continues to see its momentum grow, which is so important because it is addressing the fact that heart disease is the #1 killer of women, more than all forms of cancer combined. That's such an important thing to be able to talk about. But to have such a celebration behind that was so great. But, like, you know, I think about, like, of course we had the Ohio Valley Heart Ball, which is always a party, but it just felt like this year was an even bigger party. The wonderful theme, you know, with the Alice in Wonderland theme, the 10:30 surprise with the drum corps coming in from the high school. Like, there was such an energy at that event, like even more than usual. And that's, again, a very high energy event. But I couldn't get over just, again, that genuine excitement. And of course, having a chair in Melissa Radizak, who is a survivor, and seeing her be able to be there and to be able to take that dance with her husband, like, there was such a beautiful thing to help start with the celebration of the centennial. I thought it was pretty incredible.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Well, when you look at, again, like an event like that, you look at Wear Red Day, you know, and then of course we were going into the legislative session at that point. We had a very high octane start to the year. I mean, that was an awful lot going on. And then of course with our legislative session, we get the incredible win with CERP. You know, again, I know you oversee so much on the development side, but you also help out with everything that we're doing in the realm of government relations and community impact. What was it like for you to see something like that pass this year, you know, and especially with the first time it had really even gone up?
Well, it was incredible, and I think it's just the beginning too. And you know, for the viewers that don't necessarily know what CERP, it's our Cardiac Emergency Response Plans. We call them CERPs, and they did pass legislation to get them into schools, and it will follow the American Heart Association guidelines, and then also to the local ambulance authority guidelines for if a cardiac emergency happens at a sporting event.
Yeah.
And you know, we had Griffin, our survivor. He actually did have a cardiac emergency at school. Luckily, the faculty that was around him jumped right in, started performing CPR. We were able to highlight that story, and I think that was a big push to get this legislation passed. But like I said, I think it's just the beginning, and we'll see more, deeper. It'll go deeper with these CERP plans, and have them in more institutions, because it's so important to be able to have, just the knowledge of what to do if something like that happens.
Well, I think it's one of those things too, when you look at the more rural nature of our state, it's even more critical in schools that are kind of out there, out past certain areas, where if you don't have somebody getting help, I mean, if you call EMTs, that's great, but it could take them 30 minutes to get there, 45 minutes. Someone's got to be doing something. And again, how good is it to know that your school would be prepared, that you would be ready to go? If something happens, everybody knows what to do. And in the case of Griffin, and keep in mind, that was before the CERP, policies had even passed, everybody in that school knew what to do. And because of that, Griffin was able to speak at the legislature and talk to these legislators directly. And what an incredible and impactful thing that was. His story is just one of those where you, as a parent, it's like your worst nightmare. Your child drops of a cardiac arrest at school, but thankfully everybody knew what to do. And I'll never forget his mom telling me that when he got to the main children's hospital he went to, which I believe was Cincinnati, that they were like looking at him in disbelief, because they were like, anytime a kid has something like that happen, we're looking at a kid who's intubated, a kid who's unconscious. He's sitting here looking at us and talking to us. That's incredible. And I think it's such a testament to the people in that school who knew what to do, the local EMTs who also knew what to do and got everything set for him, that we now get that success story as a prominent story that we feature when we talk about CERPs. I think it's just, it's one of those stories that I still get goosebumps when I think about it. And I just recently interviewed him for some Youth Markets materials, and he's doing beautifully. Like, he looks great. He's doing wonderful. Now, I know that we have a whole lot that goes on during our advocacy committee time and all that stuff. We got a lot going on during the session. We had our lobby day and our first ever appearance of our teen advocacy committee. How exciting for that is because you've worked with these kids in some components, especially like with Jahari and Hillary. You've worked with them in a more like development setting with like Heart Walks. How exciting was it for you to see these kids growing up and like stepping up for their fellow West Virginians?
Well, just what you said, seeing them growing up, which is a testament to what we've done over the past 100 years as the American Heart Association.
Yes.
Hillary
being a stroke survivor and having a stroke in utero, like, it's amazing where she's at. Yes.
Absolutely. And, we have to attribute the technology and the advances that the research from the American Heart Association has allowed that. So, first of all, seeing these kids grow up is just incredible. And then becoming these fine young adults that are taking the next step. They were involved with us with our Kids Heart Challenge and would do advocacy or advocate for us in school when they were in school. And then see them at the Capitol, so professional and articulate, just being able to talk to these legislatures about the importance of, advocating for the work that the American Heart Association does. And I think it's just incredible, really seeing them grow up and flourish.
Yes. It's funny because I remember working with Jahari, and Jahari lost his dad to a cardiac event. And I love the fact that he has spent every year ever since that happened, and it's every year that I've known him, helping to make sure that that doesn't happen to anyone else. That is his mission. And he and his mother, Lakeisha, Hearts United, I'm so inspired every time I talk to them and every time I see what they're doing. And to see Jahari there at the Capitol, with his shirt and tie on, and just this little man, like, he's not my little buddy anymore who did my little Heart Walk videos. He is now a fine young man, and he was so excited to be there. And to see Hillary, who, when I first met her, she was doing Kids Heart Challenge, and her artwork was what I got for an award one year. So that's how I first met Hillary. And then Delaney, who got involved with the Heart Healthy Hunting campaign and has literally lost family members to a hunting incident, because of that. And so she's become such an advocate for that. To see these wonderful human beings, these young, wonderful human beings stepping up to help other people, and the selflessness of that is something that really, like, I'm always so proud of what we do in advocacy. Having the first ever youth advocacy committee is one of those things I'm probably the most proud of, because it's such a beautiful thing to give them that opportunity, and they were so happy to be there and we're such a part of it. Moving on from there, of course, we go into spring events. And, we always talk about our first Heart Walk after the long winter is the Huntington Heart Walk at Ritter Park, which is always a fantastic event. Ritter Park is always nice and green. Getting into the spring Heart Walks, like, is that like a point for you almost, like, for you guys also, it's kind of like a bit of we're happy to kind of be back outside again. Like, we're not just indoors, we're back out. We're out in the community, we're getting back out. How is that vibe for you and the team?
As you said, it's our first event after the long winter, and our galas, our Heart Ball, are so much fun.
Oh,
and,
they are,
You touched a little bit on the Ohio Valley, and then here at Charleston. They're just a great time, and everyone gets to get dressed up and really highlight survivors and the work that we're doing.
Yes.
But then our Heart Walks are just a totally different vibe.
They really are.
And it's so much fun.
They have dogs.
Yes,
and that's really dogs and kids.
I'm
always happy.
And highlight our survivors. You see, a sea of red caps, red and white caps. People wear red for heart, that are heart survivors. People wear white that are stroke survivors. And, the days are longer.
Yes.
Everything's starting to bloom. And it's just, like I said, it's a totally different vibe, and it's so much fun. And we start with Huntington, and then we go into Morgantown. And
Yes.
it's just, both of them are just such incredible events, and we keep seeing our attendance grow and grow. And it's not just with survivors or with families, it's just with people in the community that want to come out and support the people they love. So those events are they're so much fun.
They really are, and you're right. It is so awesome to see that boost in attendance, and again, not just being like survivors or sponsors, but just like you said, just the community who wants to be a part of what we're doing. And again, to see those things happen during our centennial year, like to see those attendances, those records break, was just amazing. And you can see photos up here right now of some of our events in the spring. I think we're looking at, I believe we're looking at Ritter Park here. But these events really are so much fun because they do bring together so many people. And it's like you see all walks of life, pun fully intended. You literally see a little bit of everything. This is Morgantown. Which Lauren does a phenomenal job with that event up at the Milan Park. Such a great locale. But you know, these events really are about like bringing the community together. And I know for you, that's a big deal. Like it's the fundraising is there, yes, but I know that's such an important part for you guys is to see the community come together to support the mission. When you get to be at one of these events, you know, obviously there's a lot of work that goes into one, but what is the emotional vibe that you get when you actually get to finally attend the event that you've been working on all these months to finally see it come to fruition?
Well, there's so much work that leads into it.
There really is. Like, people don't understand. Like, there's a lot.
Yes, there's a lot of moving parts to get these events up and going. But it's all worth it. You know, once you get there and you see everyone coming, and you know, we always say heart disease doesn't discriminate.
It
so
does not.
if you haven't directly been affected by heart disease or stroke, someone in your family has, one of your good friends has, you know someone directly that has been affected. So it just touches so many people, and I think it gives everyone that sense of community, of somewhere that they can go and they're around people that have experienced the same thing, whether it's directly or indirectly. So you're seeing people make new friends and having fun with the face painters and kids running around, and like I said, you see all the red and white hats, and we've always got games, and then you know, you do that commemorative walk around the venue that you're at. And yes, it's good to get out and get exercise, but it's a non-competitive walk where everyone can just go and relax, enjoy nature, be together, talk with each other, and just really come out and enjoy the time and celebrate the work that the American Heart Association has done.
You know, one thing you guys have done a great job of, you've had so many wonderful, you know, chairs for these events. You've had so many sponsors come on board to help out in the community, and that's always a powerful thing to see, is that support from the local businesses, the buy-in that they have. But I think, you know, the thing that always gets me is the community teams, because they are the ones who are there in memory of someone or in support of someone who's been impacted by the work that we do. And I think that's one of those things that just, it's I tell people all the time, like, when you come out to a heart walk or the heart ball, but especially the heart walk, like, you're going to have a great time, but when you go home, you're going to feel so good because you were a part of something that really did make a difference and really helped people's lives. I mean, I know you've been here for numerous years, but I think that's probably something that you would even say, like, it still feels that way for you even after all these years.
It really does. Yeah, I've been here 11 years.
Yeah, that's amazing.
But it's one of those things, it's not like you forget the feeling, but after you go to the event, it's just like a whole new feeling.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, that energy. And like we had mentioned, you know, there's a lot of planning that goes in, and you get bogged down with the logistics and, you know, trying to make everything right and make it a good experience for, you know, our supporters that come out. But then once you get there, it's just the energy you just can't recreate.
You can't.
Anywhere.
It's not able to be duplicated. Now, in the summertime, of course, we see important things come up, like CPR Awareness Week in June. We had a wonderful time partnering with our friends at Lyft to be able to do the Ride with Heart program. So some great successes there. And again, kind of outside of the box, which I know from a executive director standpoint, you're always happy to be able to see the mission brought to life in new and unique ways. I know that it was just kind of an interesting little thing. What was it like for you to see, like, again, a company we've never even worked with before, a very different style of public education? What was it like to see something like that come to life?
Really cool, and I love that. So Holly Mitchell, I know she
was just on our last episode. Yes, just last episode.
She's our community impact director, and she does such a wonderful job of thinking of ways to meet people where they are. You know, the program with Link was incredible. You're really getting people when they're not expecting it. It's like, oh, okay, we get in to go for a ride. Yes, we want to see how to do CPR. And it all goes along with our Nation of Lifesavers. That was a big push for us this year. We want one person in every household to know how to administer hands-only CPR. You know, you touched on a little bit earlier about how rural our state is,
Yes.
and it's difficult to get care quickly. So knowing how to do these compressions is so important. So we've really taken that initiative to get one person, every household, to know hands-only CPR so seriously this year, and thought of different ways to get in there. So that was a really cool thing to see them, teaching that within the cars and having literature in the cars whenever they're getting
Yes.
rides. Also, the Healthy Sundays initiative. That I think was a really big highlight for me this year, seeing that being activated within churches and communities. We know that people are going to go to their congregations and worship, and then also to have the opportunity to have a healthier lifestyle afterwards. And it's not just CPR that they're teaching with these Healthy Sundays initiatives. Right. They're doing blood pressure checks, healthy eating, mindfulness. So there's been so much that has gone into our Healthy Sundays program, which I absolutely love that Holly's initiated.
Again, you want to talk about outside the box. She really has done a great job with that. And my apologies, I said lift earlier. I meant to say Link. But the Link program has been so great, and it was one of those neat things where we were able to work with Link at their facilities on the west side of Charleston, or North Charleston, I'm sorry, to have Cindy Keeley, our CPR guru, was able to do actual CPR training for CPR Awareness Week and brought people out. We had a lady that came all the way from Kentucky because she saw it on the news and wanted to be a part of it. So Cindy was able to do that because of that partnership. So that's a dozen people who learned CPR that day who would have never had the chance to do it if not for that partnership. We also worked with them to have blood pressure screenings, and they were able to even work with getting screenings for their employees. And so it was really great to see a company take that on, and then they developed their own SERP, which was awesome. Our friends at WCHS developed their own SERP. Amazing. They've got an AED in place now. They've got people trained. And it's amazing to see this kind of work going out there into the community. Now, of course, we go into the fall, and that is definitely what we always refer to on this show, and of course we refer to it internally as Heart Walk season, because we have all of our big walks that happen in the fall. Going through the spring walks, it's definitely one thing, but the fall walks are they have a different vibe to them, I think. There's just something different about like the fall season, that cooler air. There's just a different atmosphere. But obviously, again, so much planning that goes into these events, and we're talking about, the Charleston Heart Walk, the Ohio Valley Heart Walk up in Wheeling, and then of course the Mid-Ohio Valley Heart Walk in Parkersburg. What was it like for you coming to the end of the centennial year? What was it like for you to see these events take off and have the response that they had?
Well, you hit the nail on the head. It is a little bit different than our spring walks. And I don't know, it's because we do the Ohio Valley and the Mid-Ohio Valley. We do those on Thursday evenings, and it's that crisp air that's coming in, and, beautiful leaves changing and falling. There is a totally different energy that we have with them. But it's kind of nice, It's seeing everyone come out. And I'll say this year was especially special for me. I came off maternity leave right before the walk.
Before the walks.
Yeah,
yes,
so
you
that
did.
was really exciting. I'd been at home with my baby for a couple of months, and then come right back in and get to experience it and really, get reinvigorated and see our survivors and see everyone coming out and celebrate the 100 years. And so it's a really cool experience.
Well, and we saw, I think we broke records in Charleston for attendance, which, and that's always been a well-attended walk. So to say that you beat the record for attendance there, that's a lot of people.
And it was in the top 3 for income, too.
Exactly, yes. Big deal. And of course, there's some photos there. We were at Go-Mart Ballpark, which is such a great venue for that event. We had a beautiful day. It was just, such a fun event. We brought in, a huge amount of fundraising for that event. And then, of course, like you said, that's a Saturday event.
Yes.
Those Thursday evening events, though, I love the sort of business after hours.
Yes.
Like, a Heart Walk is always casual, but those Heart Walks feel even a little bit more casual. And I really like the vibe of them. There's such a different energy there. It's so nice. Obviously, we are coming to the end of 2024, and we've had so many ups, so many successes, so many highs. When you look back on this year, for you, what are the takeaways that you have from a special year like this?
Well, I would say the number one thing from this year that I am most proud of is just the success of our campaigns, and specifically Nation of Lifesavers.
Yes.
You know, we were able to give out so many CPR Anywhere kits in the community that have a little dummy in them that you can blow up, do the compressions, hear the clicks. We were able to give them away at every event. When organizations reached out, we were able to give them some, and it was from the generosity, of our supporters to be able to supply these kits and save lives. And you know, the main goal is to have one person in every household.
Yes.
No hands, only CPR. I think that we definitely accomplished, took a huge chunk out of that here in West Virginia of having people be familiar with it. Not only were we giving them out at events, but we were able to, at our core events, like
Yes.
our Heart Walk, but we were able to attend other events and hand out these kits.
Right.
Most recently, last week, we were at Light the Night.
Yes.
At Gomart Ballpark, and we had a table set up, gave out several kits, talked to people about CPR, and heard their stories. So, you know, I like to say our events are a way to celebrate the work that we do all year round, and they really felt that way this year, I think more so than usual.
There definitely was a special vibe to the centennial year. I would have to agree with that. And again, having nearly 20 years of events under my belt, I can say that there was a really great feeling to these events this year. Obviously, of course, there's some photos there. So gracious of them to have our logo up there. And of course, we were able to celebrate some of our survivors. There's Elizabeth Farrell, who's one of our wonderful stroke ambassadors. And there's Hillary Gore, our first ever National Kids Heart Challenge ambassador, a stroke ambassador as well. Both of them have even been a part of the Go Red for Women movement. And we're in our Go Red spots for 2024. So we're always excited to be able to celebrate them. Obviously 2025 is coming. So what are your hopes, your thoughts going into this new year from the standpoint of the American Heart Association?
You know, seeing what we've done over the past 100 years has been incredible, and looking forward to what we're going to be able to do over the next 100 years. And, really saying we have just begun with the work that we're doing. We're just now making these strides. And we've had some setbacks, like the pandemic.
Right. It happens.
But one thing we've always done has been able to be on that trajectory to move forward. And, with technology and the way that we're able to do our research, I think we're going to see some huge strides over the next 100 years. And, it'll be great to see my grandchildren being able to live longer because of the work that we've done and be able to really, experience the changes that we've made. So I think we're coming into a really special season at the Heart Association.
Well, and I think it's really neat to think about that we will be able to say we were a part of the first year of the second century of the American Heart Association, and that's a very special place to be in and of itself. Well, Michelle, as always, thank you for the leadership, the guidance, the inspiration that you provide to your team, and for everything that you do for all of our survivors, our sponsors, like everybody who's a part of anything that we're doing in our mission. You actively are a part of what they're doing, and you take the time to get to know them and to make them feel involved, and that takes real work. This doesn't just happen in a bubble. So thank you for your leadership, because you have really helped take us through this centennial year and have really helped set up our team here in West Virginia for great success for the second century. So thank you for everything you do and for being a part of this incredible organization and for being on the show today.
Well, thank you so much, Kevin. We all couldn't do it without you. You said, I'm involved in all the events. So are you. And you keep us top of mind to everyone within the community. So I want to thank you, and coming up on 20 years of service with the AHA. That is absolutely incredible and a true testament of you and how hard of a worker you are. So right back at you. Thank you so much for, leading us and guiding us on all of the promotions into our 100 years and beyond. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much. And to those of you at home, we wish you good health for a happy heart. We'll see you next year.